Okay, everyone, I'm going to get started. We're about 7:02 right now, and I want to, like I said, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So welcome to the RBC First Time Homebuyer webinar. And we've got myself going through a bunch of things for first-time homebuyers. And we also have Wes Watson from Davenport Realty. He's on the webinar as well, and he's going to be talking just after me. So hopefully I'll be exciting and I can set him up really well to kind of bring it on home. So now one thing I will be doing is we do have a presentation for you, okay? And I'm going to go through it relatively quickly, okay? And I would really encourage you after the call, if you do have questions, don't hesitate, send me an email, give me a phone call, whatever you'd like to do. And we can definitely go through some of the details, or maybe some of the things that we didn't get into too much detail on. So without further ado, let's get going. So what we're going to cover today, okay, we're going to cover quite a few items, getting ready to buy your first home, credit scores in Canada. I know that's become a very hot button topic as to what your score is and what it means, stuff like that. Saving for a down payment, okay, so how much you need, how to do it, stuff like that. Pre-approvals versus RBC firm approvals. So pre-approvals are not all created equally. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And finally, the importance of having a team working for you. And welcome to our newest member there. I don't have a name, I just have you a Samsung Galaxy Tab. So. Okay, so getting ready to buy your first home. So there's a couple of really neat considerations to think about. So are you ready to buy? Okay, so it says emotional readiness, but are you ready to deal with different things with your first home? So whether we're talking about repairs to the home, other things that come up, things on a house break, so you'd have to make sure that you're ready to rolling into the next one financially, deal with things for the home. You don't want to, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but that old Scotiabank commercial from years ago where they have a brand new home and they have no furniture in it. So are you ready for a home, and are you also financially ready? We do have a couple of online tools, and I can definitely send this to you if you're interested. So home buying readiness quiz and a rent or buy calculator. So okay, so let's talk about credit scores in Canada. So, why do we have a credit score? So a credit score is everything about your repayment history, your current debt, stuff like that, rolled into a score. I like to compare it to the demerit point system for having a driver's license. So if you get into an accident or you're at fault, they take away 3 demerit points or whatever the case may be. So it's very similar to that. Having a low credit rating can really affect you, so if you're not paying your credit on time, stuff like that, your score drops, and you may not get, you may not be recognized by lenders for different credit products. So just give me one moment. I'm just muting our newest person. Perfect. So what impacts your credit score? So this is really important. All of these things come into play. So payment history. Are you paying your items on time? Have you been late? Generally speaking, with a credit score, if you're a couple of days late, it doesn't impact. It starts to impact heavily when you get to 30, 60, 90, 120 days late. That's not a good thing. Delinquencies. So are you in a situation where the creditor has to chase you for items, for payments? Okay. Are you heavily delinquent on things? Again, 30, 60, 90, 120. Balance to limit ratio. This has become a huge issue. I've had clients that are perfect on their credit, never missed a payment, etc. But because they have what we call a high utilization, so they're really using up all of their available credit, their credit score is very low. Okay, so as an example, I'll use a simple example. Let's say you've got a total amount of credit available of $10,000 and you have it right at the limit. You owe the complete $10,000, that means you're 100% utilization. The credit bureau doesn't like that. If you have a credit item of $10,000 and another one of 20, but you're only using the 10, you're only about 33% utilized, they're okay with that. Okay, so the credit bureau score doesn't like when you're heavily utilized. We call it percentage utilization. Recent inquiries. I tell this to people, am I your 10th stop in the last 2 weeks? Okay, if you have a lot of recent inquiries, that's not a good thing. If you've gone to a few places shopping around for a mortgage, that's absolutely normal. That will not impact your score. Length of history. So if you just got your first credit card and you've only had credit products for a week or two, that's not a good thing. They want to know how long you've been on the bureau. Are you 7 years, 8 years, etc.? And too many accounts. That kind of comes down to whether or not you're using them or not. It is possible to have too much credit, but those are pretty extreme situations. So you can also check your credit score, and I would strongly recommend that you do this. There is Credit Karma, that's okay, but I would always recommend checking the two companies, Equifax and TransUnion. I think it costs like maybe $20 a month or a one-time check of about $20 each. Make sure you check the Canadian sites because Equifax and TransUnion are in the US as well. So Equifax.ca, TransUnion.ca, and they'll give you your score, okay? It's actually probably a good thing, especially if you're building credit. Take a look at it every little while. If you are with RBC, we use TransUnion. If you have an RBC bank account, you can actually check your score monthly, free, no charge, doesn't impact as an inquiry on your credit bureau. So. Okay, by the numbers. So these are just some simple graphs. 680 is a pretty magical number. Okay, at 680, we can get away with a little bit more affordability within the bank, and all lenders for that matter. But the credit numbers go from 300, actually it was up to 900. It says 850 there. I'm guessing this might be a US credit score picture, but we go from 300 to 900. Anything north of 680 is good for us. Anything over 600 is also good, but generally below 680, 640, we realize there might be some issues within your credit. The chart below, what makes up a credit score? Okay, so payment history, accounts, amounts owed. You're gonna notice amounts owed is a pretty big piece to the pie, length of credit history, but payment history and that percentage utilization has become very, very big parts to the puzzle. So, okay, so how much do you need? So to get into the housing market, you're gonna need at least 5% down, okay? If you can go 20% down, that's no problem. With 20% down, you can have a bit of an extended amortization, which we can talk about later. And you don't need what we call default insurance. Okay, so default insurance is if you have less than 20% down, the bank makes you get insurance in the event you stop paying your bills. So if you don't have a larger down payment, 5, 10, 15%, the bank says, we'll give you a mortgage, but because you don't have a larger down payment, we want you insured so that if you stop paying your bills, we get our money back. Don't confuse it with life insurance, disability insurance, or otherwise. It's only insurance that completely benefits the bank, and you have to pay that premium. I'll give an example. If you put down 5%, let's say you buy a house for $100,000, which I know doesn't happen, but let's say you buy a house for $100,000, you give us 5% down, that's $5,000. We will then charge you a default insurance premium of 4% and tack that onto your mortgage. Okay, and that is the insurance premium for it. So yeah, you're putting down 5%, but then we're going to turn around and charge you 4% for the insurance premium. Ideally, if you have 20% down, that's fantastic. If you just want to get into the housing market, 5, 10, 15%, that's fine. I've started with 5% down years ago. So it's a good thing. Get into the housing market if you can. Building a down payment. So there's a couple of different options. Have a savings plan. Ideally, if you can save up the money, use your own down payment for the funds, that's perfect. Your tax-free savings account's a great option. Okay, so you can save a little bit of money tax-free and then use that. If you are a first-time home buyer and you have not owned a home for 5 years, you can put money into your RSP. Not only do you get a tax refund, but you can do a withdrawal from your RSP for a couple of reasons. Buying your first home is one of them. So as an example, if you put money into an RSP, you're going to reduce your taxable income. You get a tax return because of it. And then you can even take that tax return and use that towards your down payment as well. If you do a withdrawal from your RSP, you have to pay it back in 15 years. And the way house prices go, that shouldn't be, as long as you save up property, you can put it right back over that 15 years. We do allow gifts from family or friends. Okay, so if you do have parents that are really nice, they want to give you the down payment, absolutely no problem at all. They do have to sign one of our letters just indicating that they're giving you the money, they don't want it back. So gifted down payment is absolutely allowed. Okay, so next steps that you want to look at. So your mortgage pre-approval, okay? So this is really important. It's become really critical in the market nowadays because things are getting competitive again. Your mortgage pre-approval is basically the bank confirming that that you can afford X number of dollars. Now, I want to be really clear on this. When we do a pre-approval for you, we're pulling your credit bureau, we're locking a rate for you, we're getting your documents. So our pre-approval is pretty solid. However, a pre-approval is just based on numbers. It's as good as the paper it's written on, okay? Because when we do a pre-approval, we're just checking numbers. When you find your house, the bank or the default insurance company, if you have less than 20% down, will want to verify the respective property that you're purchasing and it is worth what it's worth. So let me give a few examples here. If we do a pre-approval and you go ahead and you find a home and you put in 5 business days for financing, and we do an appraisal on the property, and again, I'm going through this pretty fast, and we find out the property is only worth $400,000, but you're paying $450,000, we're only going to mortgage to either the appraised value or the purchase price, whichever is less. So if you have a condition of financing, you can back out. But if you go firm and you've paid more for the house, the bank's only going to mortgage to the $400,000. Okay, so I went through that pretty quick. Where I'm going with this is a pre-approval is just based on numbers. It's not firm. Once we go through and we get your offer in, we verify the property, things are good, we then give you a firm approval, and then you can waive your conditions, and that way you know the house is yours. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later, and if you have more questions on that, I'd love to talk to you about it because there's a lot of different details in there that are important, especially in this market. Things that bank takes into consideration, so your income. For the most part, you need to have a job and what we call verifiable income. So if you're working a cash job or something like that, that doesn't count. We're looking for verifiable income, net worth, available funds, credit rating, things we talked about earlier. When you come to meet me, bring in, there might be more documents here, but pay slips, last year's tax returns, savings, investment accounts, stuff like that. So hopefully you'll bank with RBC, so it's not an issue. You can just pull it up, but in the event you don't bank with RBC. Okay, so this is an interesting one because I think a lot of times that the bank they're gonna approve you based on our numbers. Okay, so we really only take into consideration the mortgage payment, your heat, your property taxes, stuff like that, and we definitely build in room to afford some of the things on this screen. But just keep in mind that, as a first-time home buyer, one thing you have to keep in mind is not only do you have those things, but you have to pay fire insurance. So heaven forbid the house goes up in flames, you've got insurance. You need to show your lawyer that you've got insurance in the event of a fire. There's going to be property taxes. We already spoke about that. Utilities. Okay, so hydro ain't cheap these days, and believe me, I have 2 kids. It's really not cheap. But you have to pay your utilities, phone, cable, internet. All of that is included as well. Do you have car payments? What about your loans, your credit cards, any debts you may have, and then personal expenses? So the one thing that RBC is really good at, I definitely do the mortgage side, but if you're prepping for your first home and you're trying to get your down payment together, we have some amazing banking advisors and financial advisors that will go through and actually budget with you to make sure all these things are taken into consideration. So just keep in mind that these are all things, yeah, we may look at just mortgage payments, utilities and heat and property tax, but these are other things that you have to keep in mind when you're doing your budget. Okay, this has become really critical. And I think sometimes people go into buying their first home and they don't have these great people ready to go to jump on properties when they come available. So obviously, for the most part, everything starts with your RBC mortgage specialist. Okay, we're going to do your pre-approval. We're going to talk about life and disability insurance, all sorts of stuff like that. But make sure, and I mean, Wes is coming on shortly. I think having a referral to a really good real estate agent is important. So for the people on the webinar, if you're not necessarily working with Wes or Davenport and you have a different realtor, that's great. If you need a realtor, that's something where I can help you. Obviously, I tell people I'm a one-trick pony. I do mortgages all day long. But I know the different people in the industry, so I can refer you to someone who's really good and I know does good work. Same thing for home inspector. Okay, you're about to buy a $500,000 home in some cases. Get your house inspected. Sometimes you wouldn't buy, you wouldn't buy an electronic device without having a look at it first. Why would you buy a house like that? And then the lawyer side, and I work with a couple of lawyers, and I think having a lawyer that can really explain things. Sometimes we have lawyers that are just like assembly lines, they just kind of whip people through. But I think having a really good recommendation for a lawyer comes in very handy. So all four of these people should be within your team. And in my personal opinion, having bought properties myself, should all be able to work together. So when we're working with a real estate agent or a lawyer in particular, the lawyers I work with, I tell them, call me. If you have any questions, just call me directly. That way we're working for you, the client, right? So make sure all the people in your team know what they're doing. It's really important. And I'm sure Wes can speak to that as well. Okay, so what we've covered today, and I really whipped through this fast. There's one thing I'm going to talk a little bit more about before I let everybody go into Wes's part. So we talked about getting ready for your first home. Are you emotionally ready? Are you financially ready? Do you have a down payment? Stuff like that. Credit scores in Canada. Okay, so your percentage utilization, paying your things on time. First-time home buyers, I'm going to give you a bit of a hint and tip here. Your cell phones. I had a client in my office just last week. Every credit card was paid, loan was paid. I guess she had an argument with TELUS and Rogers at the same time. They've both gone to collections. They're both outstanding. Please do yourself a favor. Pay your cell phone bill. Don't let it lapse. It's very, very important because they're on your credit bureau as well. And I think a lot of young people, or any people who are starting out with a cell phone, don't have to be young, can be older, don't realize that these things show up on your credit bureau. So definitely pay that down. Saving for a down payment, it can be gifted. I'm going to come back to the firm approvals in just a moment. And of course, the importance of having a team working for you. When we're talking about, I want to come back to the firm approvals. So I said I would earlier. I want to be really clear on this. I think whenever you're looking for a mortgage, I think you have to ask this critical question. When you waive your conditions on your offer, so when you put your offer in, you're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, we want to buy your home for $500,000 or whatever it is, and we're going to go firm on it. We're going to waive all our conditions, and we're going to buy your house. Before you waive your conditions, this is really critical, and I touched on it earlier. Before you waive your conditions, you have to ask your bank or your institution, whoever it is that you're using, is there any reason why you would go back on the approval that you're giving me? Because when you waive those conditions, that house is yours. Legally, you got to buy that house. You have to ask the bank that question. So if you're asking me that question as an example, and believe me, folks, this is an RBC exclusive, unless you change the property, so you go find another house, or you come back and you ask for more money for whatever reason, that house is yours. We are not, and I repeat, not going back on your approval once you waive your conditions. You can waive your conditions, and I don't know if Wes will speak to this. You can confidently know your closing, and your real estate agent will confidently know you're not going to have any issues at closing unless there's something unforeseen, of course. But on the financing side, we are firm. You've got your house, you're getting your house, you're good to go, again, unless you change the property or for whatever reason you ask for more money. So firm approvals, they're really, really key. Ask your lender, what does it mean once I waive my conditions and you said we're good to go? Okay, there's a lot of questions you should ask there. Okay, take screenshots, take pictures, whatever you got to do. This is how to find me. Okay, so what do I tell? Like me, love me, follow me, adore me, whatever. Okay, you can find me on Facebook, RBC Stephen Green, Twitter, RBC Stephen Green. A couple of things too there, where some people who are actually on this might have already seen this. I have my own YouTube channel. Okay, so if you're getting into the market and you're looking for some more information, my YouTube channel has a couple of different things. It does have almost on every other week, Stephen in 60 seconds, where we've got, it's a relatively quick video. I know it says 60 seconds, but it's usually less than, say, 4 minutes. But just as a quick snapshot of things around the market. I've had lawyers on. Wes has been on once. It's just a very quick information session. Sometimes people tell me the bloopers at the end are actually the best. So if you're not going to watch the video for information, watch it for the bloopers. And then I also have my own podcast called The Green Effect. So you can listen to it on your favorite podcatcher. It's on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. That's about every week or two that a new episode comes out. Less about mortgages and more about everything from finance, life, business. I've had former Olympians on there. My boss has been on there. His show's coming up soon. Had a gentleman that's been buying properties in the U.S. I had a lawyer on there. And so the lawyer's really good because he talks about some really cool things about closing your property. Typical lawyer, kind of a monotone type thing, but some great information. Tyler's actually one of the partners I work with who's a lawyer. So, but anyway, this is how to reach me. You can, like I said, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, download my podcast, follow me on social media. And of course, my phone and email are always open to reach out to me. Okay. Now, we're not going to do a question and answer because I promised everyone we would try to keep this relatively in short order and just get some quick points out. But what I'm going to do now, well, this is the big thank you. I'm going to take 5 minutes and let you guys read this. Just kidding. You don't have to read this. These are all the disclosures of everything I just said. Basically, the bank cannot be held liable for anything stupid I've said. Anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Wes. And I got to tell everybody, it's the first time I'm using this software. So if I just magically disconnect you right now, come back, please. Come right on back and we'll figure it out. So give me a moment. I'm just going to turn this over to Wes as soon as I figure it out. I'm going to make him the host. Hopefully it works. Oh, Wes.
I did that.
You did. Phew. Good. Okay. I can hear you. I believe everyone else can hear you. I'm going to turn this over. Give me 1 sec here. I think I got to do one more thing, buddy. No, I think everyone can hear you. I think you're good.
All right, good. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. If I can hear you, I think everyone else can hear you. So.
All right, let's assume they can.
All right. Go ahead,
all right. Thanks everyone for coming on today. That's really awesome. I love the idea of being able to come to a seminar in my golf shirt labeled and no pants on. This is fantastic.
You don't want to see what I'm wearing. Anyway.
I know. Yeah, it's clown shoes from the bottom down. All right, guys. So now that we're done the fun stuff with the mortgage, which is amazing, I think I'd just like to give a little bit of a background from a realtor perspective to why it's a good idea, or incredibly important, maybe the most important thing you're going to do is choose a good mortgage broker. And the reason that it is important is that there's a really strong connection between the mortgage broker, you, and the realtor, right? It is kind of like a three-way partnership. And it's incredibly important to keep the lines of communication open while you're moving through the process. Now, the awesome thing about RBC, like Stephen was saying, is that they give firm approvals, which is very different than everyone else. So like you mentioned, if once we have a number in place, we can move ahead with that number. So doing that and having that ability gives us a lot of flexibility in what we need to do when we need to do it. Now, the market right now in our area, presumably you guys are in, I'm going to assume you're in Southern Ontario anyway. The market right now is incredibly strong, meaning that the inventory is low and it's sitting, depending on the market you're in, but it is definitely sitting in under 2 months of inventory. What that means is that if no more houses came on the market today, literally not one more house came on, it just stopped, and the buyers kept buying at the pace they were buying at, every single house would be gone in 2 months. So that's how we judge the market balance. So if it's under 3 months, it's a seller's market. Pardon me. If it's over 3 months, it's a buyer's market. Obviously, the inventory creeps up. Buying power gets stronger because you obviously can do more things. Probably negotiate more off the purchase price and things like that. We're not seeing multiple offers in that type of market. We're seeing a very balanced market sitting around 3, which is actually where most of us, especially realtors, like to be. The market we're in right now is really, really tight. So it doesn't give people a lot of time to make choices. So this is why it's important to do all your legwork up front, so you don't really have to worry too much about doing it while you're in the process. 10 years ago when we were doing this, it wasn't a big deal. We get a client that would call us on a Tuesday. They want to go look at houses on Saturday. You book it, great. You go see your 3 or 4 houses. They'd be like, oh, let's think about it. Monday, they'd be like, we might put in an offer. And you'd be like, great. And then next Thursday, you're putting in an offer. That was kind of normal. Now what we're seeing is, we're calling our clients on Tuesday morning saying, this house just came up. We're going to see it Tuesday late afternoon, and we're submitting an offer, maybe later that evening. So that's the breakneck speed in which that we're moving right now. So just be prepared. What you're feeling typically right now is all these things are a big ball of yarn, right? So we're in a scenario right now where you guys are feeling that there's a big ball of yarn and you don't know what to do. The cool thing is right now is what mine and Steven's job, your lawyer as well, is to take that ball of yarn and put it in like 3 or 4 separate boxes that are really, really easy kind of to manage. So it's really, really straightforward. So once you get done with Steven's process, then you move over to ours. Now, the start of our process, being the realtor process, is we sit down, we go over a buyer, we do what we call a buyer needs analysis. So typically you come into the office, we do, Steven just joined, but I can see you right there. Unbelievable. You come into the office, we do what we call just a buyer needs analysis. So we sit down, it could take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on, what there is to talk about. We go over all your needs and wants, and we prioritize, of course, those needs, and then we prioritize the wants. And then once we have that kind of set, then we go out and start looking at houses. It does occasionally happen where the first meeting we have with a client may be at the first house. Yes, that does occasionally happen. The reason we like to sit down first, though, is because if we can go over that needs analysis, it's spending a little bit more time up front, but it really ends up saving us hours and hours and hours of time on the back end, right? Because we know what you want and we know the process to move forward. Okay, so we sit down, we go over the needs analysis, we find your needs and wants, then we start doing the fun stuff. So we get to go over and look at homes. Tip number 1, we typically only look at 5 at the most houses in one trip. The reason being is houses really start blending together. So what happens is we go to houses, we get feature sheets, we talk about it after, And the next thing you know, after we've done this a few times, that 4-bedroom house now has 3 bedrooms, and that 5-bedroom house that had 3 bathrooms now has 2 bathrooms, and everything just kind of starts, kind of melting into one another. So you want to get a really clear picture and not overload yourself with like 10 houses to see in a day, because you just can't seem to keep them straight. We can't keep them straight. It's actually more our fault than yours. So it's really, really important to actually kind of is just to keep it small. The needs analysis gives us a lot of information on what we need to be looking at. So typically we're only looking at houses that are going to fit your criteria. Now, the perfect house does not exist. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And you know what? Just be okay with it. That's all right. It's not a big deal. So what we do when we show homes is we go in the home, and typically you guys kind of have your own feel of kind of where you kind of navigate towards. Typically people navigate towards the kitchen when they first walk in the home, but everyone has their own style. No big deal. You're looking at the layout, you're looking at positioning of things. Can you fit your furniture in here? All that wonderful stuff. The realtor is now behind you looking at all the things that you're not looking at. He or she could be looking at, you're going to find them looking at the ceilings, you're going to find them looking at the floors, you're going to find them looking at the windows, looking at the furnace, looking at the age of roof. Anything that we can possibly see is important, just to save the time and effort if we do need to put in a home inspection. So we go through the home, we get back to the door, and the question I always ask my clients is this: every single house, even if you guys trash the crap out of it the whole time, every single house, I say to my clients, guys, do you want to buy this house? And the answer is yes or no, maybe. It doesn't matter. If it's no, we tear up the sheet and we move forward. Okay? Believe it or not, I've had clients where they literally trashed the house the entire time. We left, went home, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. They called me and they're like, we want to put in an offer, and you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. So the reason that we do the reason we ask that question is because we've been in that position before. So we just ask the question after every single showing. Now, once we find the home that you like, we put in an offer. So what goes along with an offer are papers. So in the first meeting that we have, where we do a needs analysis, we sign what we call a buyer representation agreement. So what the buyer representation agreement is, it's an agreement that binds you guys, the buyers, to, let's just say me, the realtor, for a period of time. Okay? So what that allows me to work on your behalf. It allows me to submit offers on your behalf. It allows me to speak on your behalf to other realtors and negotiate on your behalf. The reason that we do that is because you want to make sure that you have a relationship with your realtor. So the reason we sit down and we get comfortable with it is so we can move forward together. So it's really important to establish that you, at that time, if you aren't happy with the person that you're meeting with, like you're not gelling, you couldn't sit in the car with that person for a few hours looking at houses, you don't feel like they're working in your best interest, do not sign with them. Okay? Sign with the person that you think is going to be the best suited for you. Okay? Simple. Once we have that paperwork signed, we go look at houses. Great. Now we put in the offer. With an offer is several forms. Number one is a form called Working with a Realtor, and all that does is it establishes relationships. So it's a piece of paper that establishes that I am working on your behalf, you are the client, what our relationship is. It also explains multiple representation. So multiple representation is a form of representation that one brokerage could be representing the buyer, and the same brokerage could have the listing. So it's really imperative that you understand what that is and then how to move forward if that is the case. Okay? That's just a question. Then we sign what's called a confirmation of cooperation and representation. And in this document, that's the document that gets submitted to the other party with the agreement of purchase and sale. And on that, again, it spells out who is working with who. I be working with you. The listing agent is working with the current listing that you guys are putting an offer in. And it also spells out the important thing in there is the commission that's being offered out. So the cool thing about being a first-time buyer, or being a buyer for that matter, is about 95% of the time you do not pay commission. Okay? The commission comes from the listing side of the process. So especially right now, when you guys, like Stephen was saying, there's a lot of extra fees and there's stuff like that you're going to be incurring right now. Plus you're going to have like your setup fees for your hydro and your, all that Rogers and all that wonderful stuff. It is nice to know that you do not have to pay a commission when purchasing the home. But all that is spelled out in the confirmation of operation representation. So you can see all of that stuff. It's very transparent. Okay? And then the fun part, the agreement of purchase and sale. You've now found your house. This is let's call it an 8 out of 10 because there's no 10 out of 10. So we say an 8 out of 10 is a win. You found your 8 out of 10 house. You're submitting your offer. And on the offer, there's several things. It's about 6 pages long, depending. If there's more conditions, it could be longer. But there's a few things that you really want to consider. You want to consider, obviously, your purchase price, your closing date, and the conditions and terms of the agreement. So those are the kind of the big items of an agreement of purchase and sale. And how that works is literally we sit down, just like we did with the needs analysis, is we sit down and we go over the paperwork, and then we just walk you through all the steps that it takes to put together an offer. So that's the logistics of it. Once we submit the offer, we give them a deadline, meaning that you guys, we as our party is submitting an offer, and we're giving them, 12 hours, 24 hours, it depends. We're giving you this long to decide. Okay? We submit an offer. They come, they either accept it, decline it, or send it back to us. One of those 3 things is going to happen, and then we move forward. So a lot of times, especially in this market, we typically go in strong. There's not a lot of lowball offers happening right now just because inventory is so low. So we usually go in with a relatively strong offer. The more deposit, the better. I know right now, being a first-time home buyer, it may be a little bit difficult to scrape together a higher deposit, but if you can, do it. We submit the offer. Hopefully we get it. We don't always. But I can tell you this. Every one of my clients, and we've sold a lot of houses in our time, every single one of our clients that has gotten into a house that has lost houses in the past, every single one of them says it was meant to be. I don't know why, but it is. So rest assured, you will get in the house you're going to get into. And kind of my last point is this is the stepping stone to getting in the game. So all of the leverage points that we, let me just speak for myself, that I've had in my my quest to buy more homes has stemmed from the purchase of the first home. So what we did, my wife and I, is we used the equity from our first home to purchase our rental property. And now that rental property is almost paid off over the last kind of 10 years, which is our first rental property. So it's using that equity smartly, but we couldn't have done that second one without getting in the game. So the name of the game right now is just hop over the boards and get in the game. All right. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Stephen, and I can, by all means, give me a call and I can get in touch with you. And thanks for having me on.
Perfect.
I hope I didn't babble too much.
No, that was good. You know what?
I know, it was awesome.
Yeah. It's hey, humble, man. It's all about being humble, baby. It's all about being.
Yeah. I hope you guys got something out of it.
Yeah. And Wes, what and I just did a video with someone else on this. So if they're looking at months of inventory as an example,
yes.
What does that mean if it's a higher number, a lower number, buyer's market, seller's market? What does that mean to these guys?
Okay, so define that a little bit. Right. Okay. So right now in KW anyway, Kitchener-Waterloo, we just got the numbers on Sunday, and we're sitting at about 1.6. That's 1.5 months. So that means that inventory is extremely low. And what that does is it puts a downward pressure on the market, which causes prices to start pushing up, because typically you're going to have multiple bids on homes. So that's what causes the market to drive up. It's not a wonderful market to be in, especially when you're a first-time home buyer. And the bigger challenge right now is in the kind of the average price points. So we're sitting about 450 for average price, 475.
4 to 450 or so.
Yeah. So once you go lower than the average, it gets a lot more difficult because there is a larger pool of buyers. As you kind of step over 700 and 800, things just definitely start loosening up a little bit. So the months of inventory is an important number to keep an eye on. We sometimes call it an attrition rate. Might be a word you hear as well. But months of inventory is important to keep your eye on, because as that creeps higher, you're buying. You actually have a little bit more buying power. Literally every point it goes up, you have a little bit better of the ball moves into the buyer's court. Right now, the ball is definitely in the seller's court.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's so I just posted a video, I think on yesterday was Wednesday, and there's a little more detail around that months of inventory numbers. So Wes, that was a great explanation, and the video will show you even a little more detail around that. Just to give an example too, around working within a team. So I have had first-time home buyers get into a very competitive situation. And if your mortgage guy and your lawyer and your realtor are working together, I'll give an example where we had a first-time home buyer go in. Realtor found out that the seller was going to be accepting offers not till the Saturday. He found out about it on the Monday. We were actually able to go in with a bully offer because we were working together. I got that text message 10 o'clock at night. Hey man, we got an offer coming in. Can you get it done for me in 2 days? Because the buyer was properly prepared, pre-approved, had documents in, and luckily we didn't need to do an appraisal. We were actually able to get their approval done in like 24 hours. So firm approval in 24 hours. So
It makes a huge difference, guys. If there's any advice I would give you, it's get to the mortgage broker, find out what that number is. And I would suggest using RBC. I get it. Everyone has different preferences. You might have a brother-in-law or a sister that's in mortgages. And if you want to use them, that's awesome. The one thing that I do suggest, though, is make sure that they have a good, really good open line with the realtor. You have no idea how many times that I've had a client in the past where they've had their own mortgage broker and I could not get in touch with them. And I got smoke coming out my ears because the market moves so fast right now. If they're not on top of it, you're not going to get the house. It's that important. So again, if this was 10 years ago, it's not as much of a deal, right? We have more time. Now we just don't have time. We move quickly.
Yeah. And I'm sure you do this too, Wes, when you get in text messages at 10 o'clock at night from clients, from seller agents, whatever. And it's, you're right. Things just go fast.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
The cool thing about it, though, I think, I don't know about you, but the cool thing I always think is that I get really jazzed about seeing how happy the people are, like seeing how happy especially first-time home buyers who it's such an exciting time. I still remember it. It's been a little while now, but I still remember the feeling of like, oh my God. And I remember I just got my real estate license like 16 years ago. I just got my license and I put the offer in and my wife and I were just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And it's really, that's the charge. So to get a call at 10 o'clock at night is normal. We do work kind of weird hours, but it's really exciting.
Yeah. Do you take out first-time home buyers, or any home buyers for that matter? Do you take them out to look at homes if they haven't been pre-approved?
Okay. Full disclosure, I have before. That, again, being said, that was a different time. So now it almost just doesn't make any sense. I think the typical, like, as they don't study a lot of studies on this, and they track the first-time home buyer and what they do, and the typical first step is obviously looking at Realtor.ca. You kind of start going like you guys might get off the call today and like hop on Realtor.ca and be like, I think we can start swinging this. So that's kind of step one. Step two might be like, hey, on Saturday I'm going to pop into a couple open houses. So that might be step two. Step three is okay, you know what? Now might be time to call Stephen Green. Now might be the time. Sometimes buyers skip that step and go to the realtor, and the realtor starts taking them out without knowing exactly what they can afford. And it kind of just more of right now, especially, it's kind of just a waste of time.
Yeah. And I think in fairness too, to the people that are out there looking for stuff, I mean, if I'm a home buyer and I'm assuming I'm going to get a certain amount of money, right? If I go and look at I've looked at $500,000-$600,000 homes, but I can only afford 400. in fairness, I mean, that's tough. If you're a first-time homebuyer, you get your hopes up, and all of a sudden, not only you're not getting the perfect house, you aren't getting a house, right? Because it's not the one that you thought you could get. So I think
Yeah.
some planning and making sure that before your real estate agent, who maybe has been referred to you from your mortgage person, takes you out to all these homes, we want to make sure that you're shopping with the right size wallet, right?
Expectations is a huge thing, and that's all my job is to set some really good expectations so you guys understand the process. The biggest problem that we have is you think you can afford 6 because you went on to the CIBC mortgage calculator, and which is great, by the way, but it's not an approval. So it says you can afford 600,000 or 700,000. We go in and we look at a 600,000 or 700,000 house, but it turns out that actually with your loans and your car payment and all that wonderful stuff, it's actually closer to 4. That's a huge gap, and a $400,000 house looks a lot different than a $700,000 house. So your hopes are up here, or your expectations are here, and then it's tough to bring them back down here. Like, it could take weeks and months just to drop the expectations. So it's really, really important. Just go to Steven first. Do yourself a favor. It's make it easy.
Yeah, do the planning, right? Do the planning.
Yeah, just do the work up front.
Yes. Okay. And we're going to end on this. I want you to give me, and I didn't ask you this in advance, so if I'm putting you on.
Oh, great.
I was going to apologize for this, but no, I'm not going to apologize. So tell me, give me 3 to 5 things that if people are looking for a real estate agent, give me 3 to 5 things that they should be asking the realtor to really understand if they're going to be a good fit with them. 3 to 5 things. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to give you like 15.
Okay. We got 10 minutes to fill, man. Go for it.
Yeah, no, let's not do it. The sooner the better. Okay, so the number one thing, quite frankly, and I'm an outgoing personality, so I get along with a lot of people. That's not normal though. Most people do have more of a preference, and they feel more comfortable. So, number one is do you feel comfortable with this person? That's number one. Do they have your best interest at heart? That's number 2. And then you're gonna get into more of the nitty gritty. So how available are they? What are the expectations that you have that they can fulfill? Because there's a lot of times too, is like we said, again, I can tell you right now, 90% of our conversation comes back to expectations. So we think one thing and then another thing happens, and it's no one's fault, but the expectations wasn't set. So you want to know when you're sitting down for that first appointment, what are the expectations of the relationship? So, for listings, for example, we have a whole system where we call our listings on Wednesday nights just to make sure that everything is okay. And that's just an expectation that if there's any problems, we have it all worked out and we know we're going to be talking to them Wednesday night. So if it's Wednesday morning, they typically don't call us because they know we're going to be talking Wednesday night. So that's just something on the listing side. On the buyer side, really what you want to know is that they're professional. I'm going to be honest right now, out of the 1,600 realtors in the city, 1,700 realtors, 99% of them are really, really awesome. Like, they're great. The people that we get to work with are really, really fantastic. You can, if you are nervous, you can go on the RICO website and you can check the record, all of our records. And if we do have infractions, it will be on there. And if you do see someone that does have an infraction, by all means, you should probably ask them about it. So that's probably a little bit of just a tip. But I'm going to say, Steven, it's kind of it's a great question. But realistically, it's going to be how well do you gel with that person? Do you trust that person? And those are the big ones. Because from a paperwork perspective, we're all pretty well trained. Typically not going to drop the ball on inspections or all that stuff. It all kind of stems. That first domino, that first big thing is do you like and trust them? So we always say, like, what's the 3 things? Do you like me? Do you trust me? And can I help you? Those are the 3 things we always look at.
And you guys have a pretty stringent education process. Like, I mean, you guys got to do X number of courses every year. I mean, those 2 years of being a realtor, you guys are in like the classroom most of the time. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we're not doctors, but
What?
we're not surgeons, but yeah, it really just comes down to that person have your best interest at heart. because filling out the paperwork side. Plus, the cool thing too is that the nice thing about being a buyer is there is checks and balances in place. So your paperwork does get submitted to your lawyer. So it goes through your realtor, then it goes through your lawyer. So if there is any problems, there is some catch-alls to make sure that it gets taken care of.
Okay. One last question. I'm sorry. I got one more. This will probably be a quick one. I'm putting you on the spot again because this is actually.
I'm 6'4".
What's that?
I'm 6'4".
6'4". Okay. In heels. So I'm a first-time home buyer. All right. And I go into a COM-free Property Guys, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are popping up now a lot more.
Yep.
What do I need to worry about? What do I need to do? 2 or 3 minutes, go.
Yeah, awesome question. So what we do with that is in our needs analysis conversation, we talk about we call them FSBOs, or for sale by owners, and what they offer out commission. So never worry about getting a better deal or anything like that. We still use us to negotiate. If you do go into a COM-free or Property Guys or a crappy tire signing on, the best thing to do is just give us a call, and then we call them and book the appointment. We deal with the realtor. We deal with all your paperwork. We make sure everything is done just like you're looked after. It's very rare that a first-time home buyer buys a FSBO. It's very rare because there's too much. Remember that ball of yarn? It's now I got to deal with this ball of yarn and I got to unwind it by myself, and that's a nerve-wracking thing. And is there good deals out there for FSBOs? Yeah, for sure. And we can negotiate that for you too. And it's always pretty cool too when I love dealing with FSBOs because I negotiate for a living. That's my job, and they don't. So you're going to get a better deal if you use us for sure.
So that's interesting though. And I know, and so the call that we're doing right now is about first-time home buyers. I get that, but it's interesting. You just said that it's rare a first-time home buyer will buy a for sale by owner.
Yeah.
So you almost got to think when all you people now own a home and you go to sell, just remember that. I have somebody that I know right now has had a for sale by owner for months. It's been on for 2 or 3 months, and there's just no way. Like it's just
but realtors don't see it. It's on Realtor.ca, but we don't. Just so you guys are aware, we don't look at Realtor.ca. We have our own. It's called Matrix. We have our own system that realtors use, and it's way faster, so it's populated quicker. And then Realtor.ca pulls all the information from our systems, and that's Ontario wide. So yeah, if you list with COM-free, realtors don't see it, and realtors sell 95% of the houses. So you're pretty much listing something that the people that you want to see are not going to see it.
Interesting. Well, that's a good thing for everyone to remember out there when you're looking to sell the home that you've just bought. Because I know on our side, our stat is, I think most first-time home buyers are selling within the first 2 to 3 years, right? So that's
100%.
Right. So
yeah, because they've gotten in the game, and guys, I'm telling you right now, this is the key. Just get in the game. There's your win. Like if there's any advice you want to take today, is get in the game.
Perfect. Wes, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, shameless plug. Where can people find you?
I don't know. I'm a lot of places most of the time, but you can for sure. Facebook is really the easiest way to find us right now. Our team is Wes Brian Collin, and Stephen Green has all my info as well. But if you look up Wes Watson on Facebook, you'll find me.
Okay. And we've done your background checks. You're for the most part clean, so good enough, right? Really?
Good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, good enough. We'll go. Awesome. Thanks, Wes. I really appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
All right, so this pretty much wraps everything up. I hope you all enjoyed this. To be honest with you, it's a new format we're using. We wanted to get away from bringing, dragging people into a branch or an office or whatever, and we thought this would be a lot more convenient for everybody. So if you have any questions for Wes or myself, don't hesitate to reach out at all. You've got all my social media, you've got my email, my phone number, my podcast, all that stuff. fair warning, I'm gone tomorrow morning for 10 days. I'm away to the sunny state of Minnesota. So you may not get a response from me right away, but thanks everybody for coming on. And who knows, we might, if everything grows like we expect it will, we'll maybe have some different topics for this webinar to be able to present you as you go through this pretty cool journey. So other than that, thank you very much, everybody, and hopefully talk to you soon. Bye-bye.